Hi, it's Dwyer. It is September 2nd, 2025. Um, Money1776.com, a free site. Also, always 1776.com, as well as housing 1776.com. Remember, the opinion you should follow should be your own. Just consider this video to be a second opinion from a complete stranger online. Let me also say, nothing I say in this video should be construed as investment advice. Trust no one, including me. Your operating assumption when I mention any particular stock or investment should be that I'm interested in that investment or I'm considering owning that investment. Okay? So trust no one. This is high risk. You see the words in the background. I want everyone watching this video to do their own due diligence. Now, several weeks ago, I talked about how Alphabet, Google's parent company, was trading at a forward earnings multiple of a little bit below 20. Right? At the time, I said, wow, this is astonishing value. Now, let me just say, today we got a bombshell. Right? Today, the court system ruled that a prior order that Alphabet divest itself of Chrome, the browser, was unfair. They've thrown it out. Instead, we now have in a 230-page ruling. I have not read the ruling. My understanding, based on reports, is that while Google is barred from entering into exclusive contracts in which things like, Google Assistant and Gemini app are the default on devices or browsers, and while Google can continue to enter into non-exclusive deals to preload its products, but exclusive deals right now are frowned upon, right? And while Google must share certain search index and user interaction data with competitors, and while a technological oversight committee will monitor Google's compliance, Google, at least for now, is able to keep its Chrome browser. So, if you look up the stock right now, after hours, it's up 7%. Folks, when I was talking about Google here initially, Google was in the 160s. It's now over $200 a share. It's been printing money. Now, let me just say, we're overloaded with financial information right now. Right? You look left, you look right, you look at videos like this one, and you're hearing about the possibility of an AI bubble. Right? After all, when PCs first came out, you had all these PC companies in a growing PC space that did not make it. Right? When the internet came out, you might remember the late 90s. We thought that anything with .com was going to be golden in the future. We thought a rising tide lifts all boats. We found out differently, right? Several companies that were hot in the moment failed. Not every internet company made it. Markets have a certain pattern, and that pattern gives, that pattern can also take. Right? No doubt, some companies in AI right now are not going to make it. But what I want people to do is to look at the forward earnings ratio, right? The price to forward earnings ratio for NVIDIA. Right now, NVIDIA has been on fire of late. Everyone has been saying NVIDIA is priced for perfection. Now, how could that possibly be when our government, which has gotten a little bit meddlesome, haven't they? Right? Our government was forbidding NVIDIA from selling frontline chips to China. Pretty big market, right? A market with more than 1 billion people, right? The second most populated country on the planet. Well, understand, then we heard that NVIDIA cut a deal with the government where, in exchange for 15% of their profits, NVIDIA would get a license to trade with China. Seems to me that there is still some growth on the table. So NVIDIA announced its earnings. I just want people to listen to the earnings. You need to look at the actual numbers. You can't rely on pundits or guys with high risk in the background. You need to just look at the numbers. You need to think about them and ask yourself, is this a good investment going forward? How high is the opportunity cost I would be paying having my money in this company as opposed to gold, which is around all-time highs, right? Understand, folks, as Peter Schiff has pointed out, I'll give Peter a nod here, right? Bitcoin is down from its all-time high against gold, right? For all the hype, for all the exposure, this administration, ETF companies like BlackRock, Fidelity, for all the attention they have, drenched Bitcoin with. Just understand that Bitcoin isn't matching gold right now. Right? Bitcoin's all-time high versus gold was a few years ago, not now. Gold is outperforming Bitcoin. So when you see a company that looks undervalued, like Google has proven to be, right? Looks, like it's going well, but it's priced for perfection, as NVIDIA appeared to be. Right? Again, I just wonder how that's possible. Does perfection not include having unfettered access to the Chinese market? Well, let me just say this. NVIDIA announced earnings. And total revenue, I'm not going to bore you with the numbers, just the rate of change. Up 6%, not year over year, quarter over quarter. Year over year, the number is 56%. Data center revenue. Right, folks? Understand all these AI searches, right? All the servers you're dealing with, they have to be around other servers. They have to have access to electricity. Data centers, red hot area. NVIDIA's data center revenue up 5%, quarter over quarter, up 56%, year over year. Gaming revenue. Have we forgotten that NVIDIA was actually into gaming before it got deep into artificial intelligence? Gaming revenue up 49%. Right? Earnings per share up 59% year over year. Folks, AI is with us. NVIDIA is still thriving. Understand what this Google ruling means. Right? Google doesn't have to divest itself of the Chrome browser. Third parties were approaching Google saying, hey, sell us the Chrome browser. One offered $18 billion, which was low. Right, folks? If Google were to now make the decision to divest itself of the Chrome browser, it would get fair market value far in excess of what it was offered. Also, in terms of the marketplace, well, you know what? It looks like something I have here, and I have a lot of high-tech stuff in the background, believe it or not. Something I have here is going off. We'll continue. Looks like it stopped. What I just want people to understand is that there's been an overhang on the value of Alphabet. That overhang has been somewhat clarified. Right? Google Gemini, AI, folks, it's with us. Compare and contrast the price earnings ratios of Google to companies like Meta, to companies like Amazon. Right? Google is underpriced. Let me say this too, and I know it's politically incorrect. The companies themselves are afraid to say it. But understand, many of these companies have been shedding workers. Right, folks? The benefits for them are structural. The work is still getting done. It's just getting done by AI, who you don't have to pay six figures to. You don't have to give RSUs and stock options to. Right? Their costs of doing business is dropping. They're able to make much greater capital expenditures because the capital expenditures are giving them the opportunity to reduce labor costs. Right? So, just pay attention to the news that's broken this afternoon. Right? Google's antitrust problems, at least the part involving Chrome divestiture, have been alleviated. The stock is up big after hours. Let me also say too that NVDA, right, still is perfectly positioned. AI, folks, it's not a bubble right now, and I'm not here saying every AI player is going to make it. I'm not. And I'm not saying every AI player represents compelling value. Right? The Plantier company, I don't even understand their PE. I'll be blunt. Right? You have to get into the weeds. You have to ask yourself questions like, what's the year-over-year rate of growth? Right? Where are we on revenue? The top line. What's the quarter-over-quarter rate of growth? What's the regulatory overhang? Right? Other than AMD and NVIDIA, who's going to have access to the Chinese market? Also, the Chinese market is interesting. Their approach is a little bit different than our approach. Do they even need top-line chips from NVIDIA? Or are they satisfied with chips that aren't elite? To which, of course, Silicon Valley has an addiction to elite chips, right? Let's just figure it out. Let's figure out where on the food chain you want to be, right? There are many people who prefer Taiwan Semiconductor to NVIDIA, right? The idea is that they're just better positioned. So, folks, after the NVIDIA earnings, I'm just giving you one man's opinion. And I'm not a financial analyst. I'm just Joe Investor. AI is thriving. Let me also say this too. A new publication, I won't name it, sprung up, came to my attention. And I was absolutely astonished by how much content they were putting out. Right? I was trying to catch up on crypto. And they were throwing out a lot of content. You know, it reached a point where, I was trying to figure out some new developments for a certain coin. And sure enough, this publication had articles. And they were excellent articles. Now, they have the face of an alleged author. Right? I get the feeling that she's virtual. Just like we found out that Sports Illustrated, not that long ago, had people who didn't exist supposedly writing their articles. And I thought, how could this unknown grouping have this level of volume? Then it hit me. right? If AI is writing the majority of these articles, if they just have someone going through the articles, making sure that grammatically they fit, making sure that AI, which doesn't have the empathy of human beings, hasn't put something crazy in an article that might hurt some child or what have you, right? But just understand, folks, you're going to have a lot of publications coming up with incredible volume, because all they're doing is feeding questions to AI, making sure AI has some kind of data oracle, right? Picture Chainlink in the AI world, so that AI is constantly being fed world events. And then, of course, AI is doing, without a lunch break, without an HR department, AI is putting together all these articles. They're doing the authorship. And the information just boggles the mind. The information is so plentiful now that over time, we're all going to need AI to analyze the information. So what's going to happen is AI is going to start solving the world's problems. You're going to hear that cancer, a cure has been found. And they won't be able to direct you to the researchers who came up with this information, because the information will have been figured out by AI, right? Reading much more information than the average human can read in several months, right? And doing so daily, right? I need for folks to figure things out. Already here, by the way, online, if you have a newspaper subscription, if you have a subscription to some of these research sites, it might have been several weeks since you read an article, because now you can just hit a button and have it read to you. Right, folks? We're in a new place here. I don't think the world's going to be recognizable in 3 years. I know we're thinking about AGI, artificial general intelligence. We don't even need to get there to have more information than we know what to do with, to have AI not only reaching some solution to a problem, but then being able over time to provide us with even more efficient outcomes that we couldn't possibly think of. Folks, it's all happening. NVIDIA is on fire. Google is still, even after, the run-up after hours today. The last I looked, they were up more than $7 a share. Even after the jump I'm expecting tomorrow morning. And September, of course, is not the most bullish month for stocks, right? Sell in May and go away. You know what they say, right? Google is still a stunning buy, right? Let's remember, Alphabet is the company that has Waymo as an asset, right? And of course, we haven't even gotten to the part yet where much of manufacturing is going to be taken over by computers, right? Folks, give it a look tomorrow morning when you get up. Please read up on today's ruling on Google allowing it to keep Chrome. Chrome's one of my favorite browsers. Understand it's spectacular how you can have a portal to the Google ecosystem through Chrome, right? This is a big ruling. Google would have been hurt, still a bargain in my eyes, but hurt, right, had it been ordered to divest Chrome. Of course, Google has other great things going for it, cloud computing, has been incredibly bullish for Google, for Microsoft, for Amazon, right? Google has other parts that are extremely lucrative. Folks, it still has Chrome. Those are my thoughts. Let me hear yours in the comment section of this YouTube video. Thanks for stopping by.